Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name's Tom Allen from the AI Journal. Really great to be here with you today and really excited to show this panel with some great speakers that are going to be looking at everything to do with workplace and how we can be better people with all this emerging technology going on. It makes me really excited to bring you this panel as part and partnership with Progressive HR, as this conversation stemmed from a conversation we had back in February for our RPA Intelligent Automation and Data Analytics Conference. So today, I'm really pleased and excited to introduce you to 4 different panelists that are going to be speaking today: Coreyne, Manish, Wayne, and Emma, with great conversations that will be happening. Looking forward to joining you in the conversation in the chat, and looking forward to Emma taking this away. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom, and welcome everybody to the event. I'm just going to get everybody all added in here. There we go, and now we are ready for prime time. So as Tom said, this conversation sprouted in the comments while I was hosting a panel discussion on all things RPA and AI and intelligent automation. And Coreyne dropped a fact from a Dell study talking about the idea that 85% of jobs of the future are things that we are not aware of today. And that is a pretty high statistic. And so that idea sparked Wayne to start going back and forth, and the conversation, progressed from there. If you haven't checked it out, we'll put a link to the podcast that the two of them did together in this. But then we decided we should bring that conversation out of the comments and to another event for you. And so Manish welcomed the opportunity to come share his thoughts and his expertise with us as well. But as is kind of customary, I want to encourage everybody that's joining us right now to put in where you're joining from, do your own introduction in the chat, while we kind of go around the room here doing our introductions. So first up, Manish, I'm going to come to you. If you can tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, thanks, Emma. Very excited to be part of today's session. Well, my name is Manish Bahl, and I head the Center for the Future of Work in Asia Pacific for Cognizant. So we are basically a think tank, and our charter is to examine how work is changing and will change in response to the emergence of new technologies, new business practices, and new workers. So we provide original research and analysis of work trends and dynamics, and collaborates with the wide range of business and technology thinkers and academics about what the future of work will look like as technology changes so many aspects of our working lives. So if you look at work as the foundation of modern society, look around you and you can see, how work is changing so dramatically. So we try to uncover work that we don't fully understand yet. That is something which is yet to be, uncovered. So cognizant.com/future of work is our virtual home, so where you can find all our latest work. Again, very excited to be part of today's session. Thanks, Emma.
Wonderful. Thank you. So Wayne, I'm going to come to you for your quick introduction. And then last but not least, we'll come over to Coreyne as well.
Excellent. Hi, everybody. Wayne Butterfield here. I'm a director at ISG Automation. And I spent the last decade now looking at the use of technology in business operations. I'm also a daddy, and my 3-year-old has decided to join me. Daddy will be back in 1 second, okay?
Right there, Wayne.
So yeah, the future of work right there. So yes, technology background in operations, and really looking forward to the rest of today's discussion.
Wonderful. So Coreyne, I'm going to come to you for your quick introduction as well.
Thanks, Emma, and thank you everyone for joining us today. I know everybody is very busy, so I appreciate you sharing this hour with us. My name is Coreyne Woodman-Holoubek, and I'm the founder of Progressive HR, as well as Progressive HR Live on LinkedIn. It's interesting to be on this side of the camera for once, as well as I'm a host for the Academy to Innovate HR, All About HR, which is coming up in June. So Progressive HR talks a lot about the future of work, especially on the HR side and HR technology. So I'm so happy to collaborate with everybody today.
Wonderful. And I think Wayne had to step away for 1 second to get some privacy for the conversation. But as we get going, so for anybody that is not familiar, my name is Emmaroloff, and I work in the same industry that Wayne and Coreyne, and we're all, talking and breathing technology on a day-to-day basis. My specialty is in the realm of intelligent automation, and similar to Coreyne, I am fortunate enough to have these types of conversations on a regular basis with folks, either in partnership with the AI Journal or with the Third Thursday that we're kind of helping, present this in partnership with. So we'd encourage you to check those out as well. So to get us started, going back to that idea of this 85% of the jobs being something that we aren't familiar with today. Coreyne and I have had a couple of conversations about this idea over the last couple of months. And to me, I think that is a completely realistic number. Now, whether it's exactly 85, because it is such a, futuristic topic, I find myself thinking a lot about what my kids are going to do when they grow up, and thinking a lot about what I do. And if I tried to explain it to my grandma, 20 years ago, she would have no idea what intelligent automation is. I mean, she'd know what sales was, but the rest of it would go right above her head. And sometimes I feel like even that with my parents currently when I'm explaining what I do. So that being said, I want to start the conversation, Coreyne. I want to pick your brain a little bit about this and some of the comments that, again, were the catalyst for this discussion, and your thoughts on that statistic.
Yeah, so I say that absolutely 85%. I agree with you, Emma. It is very realistic. I say it could even be more. So it could be 100% of jobs. The great thing is that we don't know. We definitely didn't know that there was going to be a pandemic coming that was going to completely reverse everything. Remote work is there, automation. And if you look back, McKinsey did a study probably a few years ago that even before the pandemic, that said 60% of the jobs, 1/3 of the tasks will be automated. So that will completely change jobs, roles, everything in the future. Add the pandemic and what we learned from the pandemic and the remote working and the automation and the digitization and digital transformation that came out of that. My goodness, we're really on top of it, and we're ready for 2030 to come and have all the jobs be completely different than what we have today. I'll also say, not all industries will change, but we look at the retail and the restaurant industry and what's happening now with this exodus of workers because they see the writing on the wall. Chipotle, McDonald's, they're growing and they're going fully automated. All those jobs are changing. That's my opinion.
Okay, so then Wayne, this was where the conversation was sparked and a little bit of the maybe like mashing of the brains. I want to get your thoughts on this statistic and kind of some of where you think we might be headed with the jobs of the future.
Yeah, so I think the one thing I do agree with is that 85, 90, 100% of jobs will change. I think where we differ is where are these new jobs? Sorry.
That's all right. Let's come back in just a minute. So, Manish, I want to ask you a question about the work that you're doing at the Center for Work. And you mentioned this idea of the think tank and some of the insights that you guys are finding related to the future of work. So can you give us a sneak peek of maybe some of the things that you're seeing, the timelines of some of these ideas that we're going to be talking about today?
Yeah, sure. So we have been doing some very, very exciting work related to the future of work. One of the reports we did in the recent past was on from and to. So from and to, which means that from describes where we are today and to means where we are going. So it's a snapshot of how millions of people around the world are living and working today. And for the foreseeable, future, as a result of the COVID pandemic, many of these trends no longer represent, the future of work, but are entirely central to the present of work. So one of the ideas we presented in the report is from cubicle to the couch. Okay, so before the pandemic hit, getting to work was a serious matter. Every day you will get up early, take a shower, wear your fancy suit, and all set to hit the road. and you are going to spend endless time in commuting to reach to your cubicle, in the office. So the monotony of Monday through Friday commuting and overtime, became increasingly expensive and boring. So, but once COVID-19 hit, WFH became more than acute, hashtag. It became the only way to work, in fact, for all of us. So now WFH is transitioning to WFA, which means work from anywhere. With a laptop, mobile, or a tablet in the coffee shop, the airport lounge, the hotel room, the TV room, you name it. So even in the office with proper, social distancing and physical world hygiene. So all we need is a couch to get the work done and not cubicle. So in this modern world, we have nothing to lose but our, cubicles. And another idea that I would like to talk about, that we presented in the report is from career to careers. So headlines like, I have 20 years of experience as a banker. So these sort of headlines in your resume, got recruiters' attention in the past. Starting in childhood, people grow up dreaming of their ideal job and set out a pursue until they retire. But now the rise of automation and AI is set to make the traditional linear model of education, employment, and career. So that model is becoming outdated. So these days, if you look at skills have become like mobile apps that need frequent upgrades. So making multiple careers rather than just jobs is the new norm. And that's where the new world of work demands that our roles to be continually augmented. So one career mindset is going to become a liability, of the future. And also just to mention, I won't take more time, just to mention about our upcoming report about the timeline of next. So we'll be going back soon. If you look at, many already have back to our offices, back to vacations, back to concerts, back to everything. But while we go back, this shouldn't be considered as a return. Absolutely, there will be a post-lockdown world, no doubt about it. But we will all, have changed, and that's what this paper is all about: the future of cities, the future of housing, the future of commuting and offices, the future of friends, family. So basically, the future of you, right? And also, how will working from home is going to recast the restaurant industry, the real estate, the transportation, just think about it. So through this report, we try to extrapolate on the vision of the world of tomorrow. So we present, 16 ideas in the form of short essays, in this report. So very excited about this report, which is going to be out later this month and will be available for everyone to download and read.
Great. I definitely am going to keep my eye out for that and make sure anybody that isn't following Manish to jump over to his LinkedIn after the live stream, follow him so that you get access to that report when it's live. Wayne, I'm going to come back to you and pick your thoughts again on that idea of the 85% statistic. And then I'm going to add a little bit on to this question. And I'll ask you, after you share some of your thoughts on that thought process and the jobs of the future, talk a little bit about how this concept plays into the idea of fear of automation and fear of jobs being stolen by automation and how that might play into this whole dynamic.
Okay, so let's start, I guess, with the 85% jobs. And Coreyne and I have now had a podcast together, which Emma referenced earlier on, and there was some brilliant insights there that you start to think about work and actually what is the definition of work, a job versus a role, objectives, and all of these things kind of really come to the fore. I think one thing that I definitely agree is that just about every role in the future is going to change. Does that necessarily mean that 85% of jobs that exist in 2030 are not going to be invented today? I would still argue that that's probably not the case. That number is quite a bit lower. But I would definitely agree that there is, almost 100% change of job, even in existing roles that we have at the present. I guess last but not least, thinking about that role of automation and that fear of jobs. I've been doing RPA now for a decade, and very rarely have I ever seen an organization significantly change their staffing levels as a result of automation. hasn't changed jobs, hasn't reduced, removed entire roles. Very rarely. It's always been very task based, and I think that's definitely what we'll continue to see. That tasks will be removed, jobs will not. Jobs will change as a result. But I think we were all pretty safe that automation is not going to significantly remove the need for entire roles. And as I say, a decade now, and I still have yet to see an entire role be removed as a result of intelligent automation.
Gotta unmute myself. I really like that statement of tasks will be removed, not jobs, because I think that's a really great way of helping to put this into perspective and help people understand that the idea isn't to replace people, it's to help make their working lives a little bit easier and hopefully more enjoyable. So Manish, I do want to come to you a little bit for your thoughts on job enhancements and this idea of new jobs coming from transformation.
Yeah, thanks, Emma. We have been, talking a lot about the automation and the enhancement of jobs, right? Machines are coming and they're going to take our jobs. That's just a one-sided, view if you look at it. I think we really need to look at the future of jobs in a more holistic manner. But first, we really need to understand the premise, behind this fear, of automation. I think the age of AI is generating mixed emotions. On one hand, you have a capitalist dream, the art of the possible. There is tremendous pressure on business leaders to reduce costs, to grow revenue, and there is no way they can ignore these, technologies, automation and AI. So they will go after these technologies, no doubt about it. But then on the other side, is the fear. AI means, automation means layoffs at the end of the day, especially when you have renowned institutions, claiming that many jobs will disappear in the future. So all this making us rethink the fundamentals of our institutions and the very nature of work itself. So when machines do everything, lots of people wonder what exactly they are going to do. Will there be a work, left for people when machines do everything? So the reality is that in the future, work will change, but won't go away. So many types of jobs will disappear, no doubt about it. But a world without work is a fantasy that is nowhere going to be a reality, anytime soon. So the problem is that, as Wayne also highlighted, we tend to confuse between a job and a task. So every job consists of, several tasks. If you are an HR manager, that's your job. So what do you do as an HR manager? You perform number of tasks. So now with the new machine, some or many of, the tasks that you perform are going to be taken care by. These tools and capabilities, but your job is not going away. It is going to get altered. So the question is not will this job is going to become automated, but rather will this task of the job is going to automate it or not. And based on this assumption, the new machine we believe is going to change the labor force in three distinct ways. Job automation, that's where the majority of focus right now. As per our estimates, only 12% of jobs are at the risk of being taken over by machines, only 12%. But still, we are talking about millions of jobs globally. So yes, there will be job losses, no doubt about it. But the point is 75% of existing jobs are going to get enhanced by the bot, which means your employment remains, but these jobs will be delivered, with greater output, with better quality at the end of the day. And what about the new jobs that no one talks about? 13% of net new jobs will also be created in the future, jobs that don't visualize today, but jobs that are going to become the cornerstone of the future of work. So we need to look at the future jobs in a holistic manner and not get biased with one-sided view or predictions, that are there in the market today.
Wonderful. And I've seen a couple of comments and questions coming in. So Coreyne, I'm going to ask you my next question and piggyback some of what we're seeing come in as well. So I see that Ricky mentioned the idea that upskilling is going to be absolutely necessary. And then Nicholas asked a little bit about explaining why developing yourself, that idea of upskilling is going to be critical for us moving forward. So Coreyne, the kind of planned question that I had for you was to talk a little bit about the types of changes that we think we're going to see as they relate to work-life balance and this idea of a 40-hour week. But I think that this also plays really nicely with how do we prepare ourselves as individuals for this new future of work with maybe some of these changes to the 40-hour work week and our work-life balance. So take it away.
Thanks, Emma. So I have 2 points. The first point being is that really the 9 to 5, 40-hour work week is really passé. And we see that happening now. I mean, it really started with taking Fridays off during the summers. That's going to advance into the rest of the year. We're working 4 days a week, or we're going the way of Sweden and Finland to doing the experiment right now of the 6-hour day, 5 days a week. So as AI and automation take over those tasks that are repetitive, that are data processing, that are admin, we're going to have more time to be working on our skills, to be skilling in the workflow, to be on different project teams. And to Manish's point is that, the jobs of the future, I kind of say that they may not be jobs. We may be at a completely different job architecture in that we're joining teams based on our skills. So we don't necessarily have a job title per se, but that we have a list of skills that we can jump on a team with. We have job sharing. So you'll maybe share a job based on your skill sets. You may share it with 2 people. You may share it with 3 people. You may share it with 4 people. So when we talk about jobs, roles, tasks, it's really about what role do you play in the organization? What are your skills and how are you constantly evolving them? As well as augmentation. I got a little frog in my throat. Augmentation. So in the future, Manish's Future of the Work study talks about a body part maker. Well, I think we're also going to have augmentation consultants. So they'll consult with you as to what you need to augment your human being with in order to quickly learn a skill. Pop on a HoloLens, put in Google glasses, learn something in the workflow to augment your skills. So that's one of my points. And then the second point is, I made both my points. The 40-hour work week is passé. We may have the Finland and the Swedish experimentation of 6 hours workday. And then my other point being, it's not just roles and tasks. We need to look at how skills are going to play a part in being on different teams and job architecture is changing.
Well, Coreyne, you just dropped a bomb for Ben. He didn't realize he was supposed to be taking Fridays off. So one other item that, and then should learn, as long as we need to work, it shouldn't be time bound is another idea that's come here. And I think that this is like an idea that I'm seeing a lot of adoption of is you have a certain set of work and responsibilities to complete, but especially in the last year, people have stopped focusing on how and when you're going to be completing that work. I was actually just recently listening to a podcast with Gartner, and they were talking about a study that they did in terms of behaviors and shifts within behaviors. And even geographically, certain countries like China and India, their working hours have shifted drastically to be later in the day as opposed to starting at 7 or 8 a.m. Because it's a little bit easier. Manish, you're joining us in the evening right now. So, those types of shifts are starting to happen and becoming much more widely accepted by employers as long as you are getting the work done. Manish, I want to come to you with another question. So earlier this month, LinkedIn released their top 50 companies list. And one of the things that they did within this top 50 companies is listed in-demand jobs for each one of these companies. And so, we have like the expected players of Amazon and Google. They took Microsoft off the table because it's their parent company, but we saw a lot of those organizations making their way in, as well as financial institutions and healthcare companies. But I noticed a trend kind of across the board of this, that a lot of the roles or those in-demand jobs were things like data analyst or integrations engineer, and all of these types of careers that seem to be tied to digital transformation. So is this a trend that you're seeing within your research? Do you think it's going to slow down or change over the next couple of years at all?
Yeah, so we do have a little, different perspective, right? I think the future jobs will not be limited to transformation or process improvement or digital, transformation. That's more of an industry buzzword. I believe the future jobs, will span across 3 areas, right, at the end, which means the coaching, caring, and connecting. three C's, what we call it. So by coaching, I mean, helping people get better at things. So managing their finances, managing their, physical health, their weight. And caring is about improving people's, health and wellness that I talked about, right? And then the connecting is all about connecting humans with machines, the physical and the virtual, the commerce, with ethics. So these three C's, right, are going to play an extremely important, role for organizations, to consider. And these three C's, speak to a universal truth that no matter how technological our age becomes, we as humans still want the human touch. We want technology to help us as a tool, but we don't want technology for technology's sake. So we use an iPhone, to play a game or send a message to a loved one. We use a spreadsheet to create a business, answer. So technology is a means, not the end. So I think the jobs of the future will reflect this very basic fact that technology has improved our lives and not robbed us, what we value the most, our humanity. So considering this in mind, some time ago we had published these two reports, 21 jobs of the future and 21 more jobs of the future, a guide to getting and staying employed in the next 10 years. So these are the jobs that don't exist today, but we believe that these are the jobs that will become cornerstone of the future of work. So as part of these two reports, we proposed 42 jobs in total that will emerge over the next 5 to 10 years. And these jobs are positioned over a 10-year timeline and according to their tech centricity. Some are very technical, some are not technical at all. And each is presented in the form of job description. The way you see any JD today, it's on similar lines, but from future perspective. So definitely, yes, one of the favorite jobs, right, that I have as part of these two reports is the human machine teaming manager. Right. So if the future of work and the workforce is going to be hybrid, we need someone who can manage both humans and machines at the end of the day. Right. So the future of work will be based on how well companies and, blend and extend the abilities of humans and machines by making them collaborative. And that's exactly is going to be the role of, human machine teaming, manager. As a manager, you're going to define the roles and responsibilities, how these two, machines and humans are going to work together and how are they going to perform different, tasks. So definitely, I believe, we really need to look beyond the traditional, lines of data analytics, the digital transformation, and the traditional roles that are usually there in organizations. And we really need to unleash the human imagination, because if you look at 10 years ago, if I told you that there's going to be a job of Twitter data wrangler, no one had believed me. But we have seen, how these jobs emerged with the rise of social media platforms. So why the future is going to be any different?
Yes. And I wanted to point out too that there were a couple of people that were commenting. You mentioned this idea of like bot wrangler. And there were a couple of other people, even before you said it, that were mentioning this idea of like bot management jobs. And Mark, I'll put your comment up here. It's quite large though, so I'm not sure if everyone will be able to read it, but this idea of, making sure that you've got the right resources, whether they're human or, bot resources taking on the task. And oh, yes, Corey. Oh, I think you're muted.
First time I ever did that. So to your point is that I do believe that human resources will split. So you'll have the compliance, policy initiative side, and then you're going to have the human and bot collaborator side. So whether HR stays HR and they have two forks, or Y actually, or they actually split into completely different professions. So that's my prediction.
One other comment from Shige was the idea that org charts are going to start to include bots. So going back to what you were saying, and you're going to need to be able to manage those and take on new tasks and probably new skills on the HR side of things as well. To your point, it may veer off into two different sides, but that's going to be whether the traditional HR staff can bring on those new skills or not. So we are talking a lot about emerging technology and how it will affect our jobs. But I do want to pick Wayne on your brain a little bit here about what piece of emerging technology do you think is going to have the biggest impact on this idea of human augmentation in the near future?
Just one, Emma, because that's difficult. Okay, I don't think I'm going to be able to. Okay, I tell you what, let me let me cover a few groups. So I think the first one is not necessarily a technology, but more of a marketplace, right? This platform economy, where, you know, to Manish's and Coreyne's point earlier on, we had you know, people being able to complete multiple jobs. But in order to sell yourself and to be available to complete, you know, micro tasks, individual projects, etc., there needs to be a way for a potential employer to be able to liaise with you, right? And you know, the world of recruitment is generally on the phone, and you know, it's just very archaic. In the future, you know, this platform economy, where you can literally search for a particular skill that you're wanting, hire them for a particular project or to deliver a particular objective, and employ them, which could be for an hour, a year, a month, a week, a project, you know, a transformation project. It could be anything. So I think that's probably one of the key things that is going to change how we are employed. And then it's this kind of platform economy, and there's you know, plenty of them out there. Top Coder is probably a great example. It's been going about 20 years, so it's not emerging. It's just people's way of working, and the pandemic has accelerated this ability for us to work anywhere, in theory, for anyone. Because we're no longer office bound. It'd be very strange if you were, you know, if I was in the office of ISG Automation and I was working for somebody else. That'd just be very, very strange. That's not quite the same when you're working from your home office. In theory, why couldn't you work for 2, 3, 5, 10 different organizations all at once? So this roll-up platform, okay, and you know, the platform and a marketplace for your skills and talents, that is going to be very disruptive in the future. If we think about technology with regards to augmenting what you are doing, this idea of personal assistant in the workplace is kind of where I think the biggest shift is going to be for a lot of people. And if we think about at home, I don't want to say it too loud because there's about 50 of them in our house, but something like Alexa, yeah, she hasn't heard, so that's good. You know, now for me is used certainly by me and my kids constantly for maybe, you know, 5, 10 different tasks, no more than that, not everything, but certainly a number of different tasks we use Alexa for. Imagine that type of capability on your laptop for the top 10, 15, 20 things that you do on a regular basis. And that's where we kind of see this kind of software augmentation of human plus, and let's call it kind of assisted automation, that will comprise of things like natural language processing. So not only, you know, it can read, but it can also listen to what you're saying, and can provide a response. It can do so things like, you know, general RPA or attended automation. Probably won't necessarily get the whole OCR stroke machine vision aspects of it just yet. I don't think we look generally at enough documents for that to kind of be on our desktop, but certainly the communication aspects and the doing aspects are going to be incredibly important. So this role of a personal assistant within or on your laptop, almost like Cortana or Siri, but incredibly useful at doing things, not just saying things, I think is the biggest thing that we're going to see augment what we do from an emerging technology perspective.
So one thing I want to point out is my counterpart from the third Thursday, Kieran, and I lost his comment. Coreyne, he feels your pain with the mute button, and I have to poke a little fun at him because last time that we did, I think it was actually the RPA AI journal event, that he was having all sorts of trouble with that unmute button, and our RPA community was up in arms that he hadn't created a bot to unmute him. So Manish, I do want to come to you because Wayne talked a little bit about this idea of a voice assistant. And I as well need to be careful because it seems like every one of them seems to think my names are also their names. So they start talking to me on a regular basis. But I know that your team has put together a voice report recently. Can you talk a little bit about some of the insights that you found and that as an idea of emerging technology?
Yeah, sure. So I completely echo, Wayne's thoughts, right? That voice technology is going to have a huge impact on human augmentation. So recently we, published this paper from eyes to ears. So if you look at, our attention is rapidly shifting from using our eyes to read text and our fingers, to swipe, to using our voice to and ears, to talk and listen. So definitely, it's going to have a huge impact. In the first, few initial months of lockdowns last year, voice skills usage, for Alexa, shot up by 65% globally. So people are spending more time at home. They are interacting more with Alexa and other, personal assistants, these devices, and it's just a matter of time. It is starting with, personal assistants, but over the next few years, right, definitely voice is going to be embedded into each and every aspect of your business value chain in chatbots, enterprise applications. Imagine if you have your personal voice assistant, to support you for work. So Salesforce, Oracle, these companies have already got the voice capability added to their applications so that you can manage your work, better. So voice is definitely is going to be huge, and we will witness new jobs emerging around the voice technology in the years to come. Jobs that we can't think about today, but definitely jobs that are going to be very, very important, shape the future of work and jobs based on voice technology.
There we go. I had to press the button a little aggressively to get it to do what I wanted today. During a Third Thursday conversation we had a couple of weeks ago, and I'll tag him in the comments, Shale, who is joining us for that event, had a phrase that he was talking about doing business at the speed of conversation. And I thought that that was a really cool way of phrasing it to make it kind of connect in your brain. And he was saying, that idea that voice integration will get to the point where when you say something in a meeting, your voice assistant is taking it and running with it so that you can do business at that speed rather than constantly assigning tasks and having to come back to those tasks over time.
Right. And also just to add, Emma, one point that I would like to make here, if you look at, Google search didn't become smart overnight. So more these voice assistants is going to listen our voice, our requests, the kind of information we are looking for. These assistants are going to become smarter day by day. And it's just a matter of time, as I said, these voice assistants will have a better understanding of the kind of movie you want to watch than your spouse, in the future. So it's just a matter of time. Wait for it.
Well, I think Netflix already does that. Coreyne, go ahead.
Yeah, I can already say I could see this in my email box. So like my Cortana, I didn't even know Cortana existed. She just popped up one day, and she's been actually helping me work with my workflows in my email. So not just voice, but also our emails, and possibly LinkedIn will get there one day. So hint LinkedIn if you're listening.
Which they probably are.
Yeah.
So Coreyne, I do want to come to you with a variation of this, and it is kind of buried in the comments, so I won't be able to bring it up on the screen. But I did see someone talk about some of these emerging technologies like machine learning and AI and how they may come into the HR world with things like benefit management. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so right now it's actually already happening. If you look at some of the core HCM and some of the smaller HCM like Paylocity, there's already assistants that are helping people remind people about, oh, your benefits are due, or we know that you're having an upcoming, or you're having a child, you need to change this assistant, or excuse me, you have to change your benefits. You're going to be coming up on your 90-day anniversary. You need to apply for this. So it's already happening. So, when you go down to, if you look at the role of the benefits administrator in HR, or the role of benefits within HR, it's going to be finding the best technology, the best human experience for employees, as well finding the best benefits in addition to the best perks. So I hope that answers the question.
It does. And so now I want to hit the point that I think is probably the most fun of our conversation, and that's taking out our crystal balls and predicting what we think some of these jobs of the future may look like. So Manish, I want to come to you because I know you had some lots of ideas, and you mentioned that I think it was 46, if I'm remembering correctly.
42.
Okay, 42. Dang it. All right. So I want to come to you to share a couple of those with us, maybe like your top couple. Then we'll go around the world around the world with our predictions from there.
Yeah, sure, right. So one of the jobs that we predicted is the financial wellness coach. Just like you have your personal trainer, someone who can guide you how to be in good, shape, how to be in good health. So on similar lines, we are going to have a financial wellness coach, someone who's going to ensure that you are in control of your finances. Because if you look at, the pandemic has hit personal finances of people really, really hard. And people are struggling how to manage their finances, how to be in control of their finances. And that's where this financial wellness coach is going to be extremely important role, someone who can guide you, provide you tips. And this wellness coach is going to use AI platform to provide some of the recommendations that will help you do better savings, do better investments, and ensure that you create the kind of wealth what is really needed at the time of retirement. So financial wellness coach is one. And second is something that usually tend to forget with the excitement when it comes to AI is the wrongdoings of AI. So that's why we created this role of machine risk officer. So just like you have your CIO and CEOs and CFOs in the organization, on similar lines, you are going to have the machine risk officer, because no doubt that companies are going to use more and more artificial intelligence, machine learning algorithms in their organization. But who's going to be held responsible in case of any wrongdoing of these machines? Because if you look at, thousands of people die every year in road accidents, but if a driverless car killing a pedestrian becomes a global news. So I think it's going to have a huge impact on companies' finances, their reputation, in the long run, if they do not address the biasness or the wrongdoing of these algorithms. And that's exactly this role is going to be all about. So this role is going to audit all the algorithms that are running across the organization and ensure that these algorithms are delivering company's vision at the end. So to me, I think machine risk officer and financial wellness coach are going to be two very, very important roles in the times to come.
Great. So Wayne, I'm going to come to you for your crystal ball next. And then we'll end here in the US with the ladies of the conversation. So Wayne, share some of your thoughts on what the future might look like.
So I'm going to pinch one from Coreyne. Apologies. We had I re-listened to our podcast the other day, and I really like the idea of a data broker. So again, similar to some of the roles that Manish was talking about, in the future. Data is obviously is extremely valuable. At the moment, generally people don't get paid for their data, but in the future, it's very likely that as we collect more data about ourselves, about our health, about our financial health, and all of that, that's going to become incredibly valuable to organizations for various different reasons, especially as more and more organizations become very data driven. And so a data broker, I think, is incredibly important. I'm going to stick to kind of the automation themed ones, and maybe some in the contact center or operations type environment. I'm going to call one of them the exceptions handler, and this is your crack team who are basically looking at where automations fail, and this is not just RPA, this is automation in general. And their role is to fix the edge case, so actually help the customer solve the issue that they were trying to complete, but then fix the automation so those things don't happen again. Now, at the moment, that's kind of a bit part task, I would say, in an automation COE's capability. But actually, I think as automation becomes more complex, as more and more technologies are being used, we're going to see more things automated, and the things that are left over are going to be those that are incredibly complex, and therefore they're going to be very difficult to automate, because you might not necessarily have even seen them before. I think that's quite an interesting role. And then a slight twist on what we already see in something like the contact center. where at the moment everybody has a single specialism. And what that means is that you have groups of 10, 50, 100, 1,000 people all dealing with particular query types. As we start to automate more and more, something that we call critical mass within the contact center environment is going to start to reduce. And it's very difficult to staff, let's say a phone line 24/7 when you've only got 6 people. It's impossible. Therefore, you need to pull all of these people together. And that sounds easy. You can pull the people together, but how do you get all of that knowledge from an entire organization that needs to be called upon almost instantaneously by your customers? And therefore, I kind of call it this super user that needs to be augmented via technology. So almost in real time, as someone is saying a question, technology is supporting this super agent in being able to provide the right answers. And that, for me, is the future of customer service. Less about pockets of excellence and more about the general capability that is augmented by technology. So there's kind of 3 roles that I think are, that we're going to start to see probably within the next kind of 3 to 10 years.
The idea of the data broker seems to be a fan favorite in the comments. I see Jamie and Doug and a couple of others saying, yeah, that is a really strong idea. So before I come to you, Coreyne, what was that?
Thank you, Coreyne.
Before I come to you, Coreyne, I'm going to put out my prediction, and mine is less based in research and thought process on this technology and more inspired by my freshly 5-year-old daughter as of Sunday. And this is kind of what sparked the conversation between Coreyne and I a while ago. Is she told me she wants to be a nurse artist. And my initial thought was to say I don't know if that's a thing, but sure, you can do some art on the side. And then the more I started thinking about it, I started thinking, well, as bits and pieces of healthcare start to be automated with intelligent automation and AI, maybe art and a focus on emotional well-being will become a larger part of nursing. And that will be a career that she can have. And 20 years from now, I'm going to be eating my words. So that is my job of the future that I'm bringing forward. And that's that artist nurse. And she threw in mommy there, I think, to kind of help myself a little. But so, Coreyne, I'm going to come to you, knowing that you just did this podcast with Wayne. I'm sure you are brimming with different ideas. So let's hear some of those jobs of the future.
Thanks, Emma. And I also want to mention that my daughter says that she wants to be an artist vet. So, and I did tell her that that's wonderful. I think that's great. So this is where I like what Manish said, is that this is the time that, as humans, we can realize our creativity and expand our imaginations. So I have lots of jobs that I think are going to appear in the future. And I will say that I have to give credit to Manish and Cognizant. Some of them are from them. I believe this is one of them, but narrowcaster. We have a lot of broadcasters right now, but as the future progresses and things get more individualized, more personalized, we're going to see more narrowcasters popping up. As well, I'd mentioned this earlier on in today's talk, is that this Y split in HR. So, one side handling the policies, the initiatives, and the workflows, and the other side handling the collaboration between humans and robots, or humans and automation. I also see, and I made a little mention to this earlier on, is this idea of the human augmentation consultant. So a consultant, someone I would go to, just like as I would go to get my hair done, to consult about what I want to be augmented next, or what I want to trade in my augmentation for, to either help with my job or at home. Not necessarily that we would all become bionic humans, but this idea that we can change the augmentation of what we're going to be using for that week or that month, just as we change our hair. And then lastly, and I think this is very important, and it kind of ties into that idea of the 15-minute city or the autonomous city, a lot of vertical agriculturists, so vertical farmers, vertical agriculturists, 15-minute city collaborators. And we look at this because in the future, producing our own food locally is going to be easier on us for human consumption than is like relying on the supply chain with the supply chain problems we're having right now. I also kind of see a little bit of a hint from London School of Economics, where they are training some of their students to become apiists. So that we'll need our own bee colonies to help us out with our vertical farms and producing vertical food for our 15-minute cities, or even our autonomous cities, or even our office buildings.
Great. Well, thank you. And I am proud that we made it through the list without bringing up Chief TikTok Officer. I'm going to bring that up now. And the whole realm of new social media and media consumption roles that will probably come our way over the next couple of years, as we're starting to see some of that pop up already. With that, I want to thank everybody for joining us. I see that we've got tons of comments. We'll continue to come back to those and interact with anybody or questions that maybe we didn't get to today. But I also want to take the time to thank the three of you for joining me today. I think it was a wonderfully informative conversation, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to join me for that. But with that, everybody have a wonderful day, and make sure to follow the AI Journal, Manish, to make sure that you're getting that most recent report that's going to be coming out, as well as Wayne and Coreyne, Progressive HR, and the third Thursday. If you liked this session, I promise you're going to have more information coming your way from the four of us that you enjoy. So have a wonderful day, everybody, and thank you for your time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Emma.